Emily and Sarah, inseparable since kindergarten, two peas in a pod, sharing secrets, dreams and laughter, their bond unbreakable. Or so they thought. Summers were for adventures, exploring the woods behind their houses, building forts, telling stories, the woods, their sanctuary, their escape. But this summer, something felt different. The air grew heavy with unspoken words. Sarah, usually bubbly and bright, seemed withdrawn, her laughter now strained, her eyes clouded with a distant fear. Emily noticed the change. Sarah's once vibrant energy now replaced with a brooding silence. Her laughter, once infectious, now rare and fleeting.
Did you hear that?
Emily would ask, her voice barely a whisper. Sarah would just shake her head, a nervous tremor in her hand. The woods, their sanctuary, now felt different, oppressive, menacing, as if something watched from the shadows, waiting. The whispers grew stronger. No longer faint murmurs, they swirled around Sarah like a malevolent wind. Emily saw the fear in Sarah's eyes, the struggle to resist the unseen force.
They're talking to me. They say I have to do something.
Don't listen to them. They're just voices, Sarah. They can't hurt you.
But the whispers persisted, growing louder, more insistent. They promised power, revenge, and a world cleansed of the unworthy. The woods, once their haven, now called to Sarah. The whispers, like a siren's call, lured her deeper into the shadows. Emily, sensing the danger, tried to keep Sarah away.
We shouldn't go. It's not safe.
They're waiting. They need me.
And with that, Sarah plunged into the woods, Emily's desperate pleas echoing behind her. The woods swallowed them whole, as if the trees themselves were conspiring to keep them hidden from the world. The dense canopy above blocked out the moonlight, casting eerie shadows that danced around them. The air grew heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. Every step they took seemed to stir up the scent of the forest, a mix of life and decay that clung to their senses. An unnatural silence descended, broken only by the crunching of leaves under their feet. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen.
Sarah, the whispers, they've stopped. It's so quiet now. I can't even hear the wind in the trees.
Emily stayed close to Sarah, fear clutching at her throat. She could feel her heart beating faster, each thump echoing in the silence around them. The whispers had stopped, replaced by an unnerving silence. It was as if the forest had suddenly become aware of their presence and was now watching them. It felt like the woods themselves were holding their breath, waiting. The tension in the air was palpable, a heavy weight that pressed down on them.
Did you hear that? A crow. It sounded so loud. It's like it's warning us.
A crow cawed overhead, the sound sharp and piercing. It echoed through the trees, a stark contrast to the silence that had enveloped them. Emily jumped, her heart pounding in her chest. The sudden noise had shattered the eerie quiet, leaving her nerves on edge. She looked at Sarah, but her friend seemed oblivious, her eyes fixed on a point in the distance. It was as if Sarah was in a trance, drawn to something Emily couldn't see.
Sarah, let's go back, please. I have a bad feeling about this place. It's like the forest is alive and it doesn't want us here.
But Sarah didn't respond. She continued walking deeper into the woods, her pace quickening. The forest seemed to close in around her, the trees growing denser and the path less clear. Each step she took seemed to echo in the silence, a haunting reminder of the isolation that surrounded them. The shadows stretched, reaching out like grasping claws. The air grew colder, biting at Emily's skin. She shivered, pulling her jacket tighter around her, but it did little to ward off the chill that seemed to seep into her very bones. The forest was alive with an eerie stillness, the kind that made every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs sound like a thunderclap.
Sarah, where are you going? This doesn't feel right. Emily's voice trembled as she called out, her concern growing with each passing moment. She could barely see Sarah now, just a shadowy figure moving further away.
Fear coiled in Emily's stomach, cold and tight. It was a fear she hadn't felt in years, a primal terror that gripped her heart and refused to let go. She could feel her pulse quicken, each beat a drum in her ears. She wanted to run, to scream, but her feet felt rooted to the spot. It was as if the woods themselves held her captive. The trees loomed over her, their branches like skeletal fingers, and the path ahead seemed to vanish into darkness.
Sarah, wait! Emily's voice was desperate now, a plea that echoed through the trees. She reached out, her hand trembling, but Sarah was already too far gone.
Emily cried out, her voice echoing through the silent woods. The sound seemed to bounce back at her, mocking her helplessness. She was alone, truly alone, in a place that felt more like a nightmare than reality. Sarah stopped, turning slowly to face Emily. Her eyes, once warm and familiar, were now cold and distant, like chips of ice. A cruel smile played on her lips. It was a smile that sent a shiver down Emily's spine, a smile that spoke of things unspoken, of secrets buried deep within the forest.
Sarah, what's happening to you? Emily's voice was barely a whisper, her fear palpable. She took a hesitant step forward, her heart pounding in her chest. The forest seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would come next.
And then it happened. With a speed that belied her slender frame, Sarah lunged at Emily, her hands outstretched, her nails like claws. Emily screamed. The sound swallowed by the dense woods. She fell backwards, Sarah on top of her, her laughter cold and hollow echoing in her ears.
They told me to do it. They said you were unworthy.
Emily struggled. But Sarah was relentless, her eyes burning with a terrifying intensity. The woods watched, silent and indifferent, as the life drained from Emily's eyes. The setting sun cast long, eerie shadows through the trees as the search party entered the woods. Whispers of the tragedy had spread through the town like wildfire, leaving a trail of fear and disbelief.
Gasp. Oh no.
They found Emily's body near a gnarled oak tree, its branches twisted like the limbs of a tormented soul. Her lifeless eyes stared up at the darkening sky, a testament to the horror she had endured. And Sarah? She sat beside Emily, humming a haunting melody, her eyes distant, a chilling smile playing on her lips. The whispers had taken her, consumed her, leaving behind a shell of the girl she once was. The town reeled in shock. The once vibrant streets now echoed with a somber silence, a stark contrast to the lively chatter that used to fill the air. The community, tightly knit and always supportive, found itself grappling with an unimaginable loss. Emily's death, a gaping wound in the heart of their community. Her laughter, her kindness, her very presence had been a beacon of light for so many. Now that light was extinguished, leaving behind a void that seemed impossible to fill. Sarah, declared insane, was institutionalized, her vacant eyes haunting the halls of the asylum. The once lively girl, now a shadow of her former self, wandered the cold, sterile corridors, her mind lost in a labyrinth of despair and confusion.
It's hard to believe. Such a tragedy. The townspeople, in their hushed conversations, could barely comprehend the series of events that had led to this heartbreaking outcome. Whispers of disbelief and sorrow filled the air as they tried to make sense of the senseless.
Whispers followed Sarah, tales of her ramblings, her chilling laughter echoing through the wards. The stories spread like wildfire, each more terrifying than the last, painting a picture of a girl tormented by unseen forces. Tales of her ramblings, her chilling laughter echoing through the wards. The eerie sound, a stark reminder of the darkness that had taken hold of her mind, sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. Some said she spoke of voices, of shadows, of a dark presence that dwelled within the woods. The very woods where Emily had met her tragic end. The connection was undeniable, yet the truth remained elusive, hidden in the shadows of the forest.
My poor Sarah. What has happened to my little girl? The anguish in her mother's voice was palpable, a heart-wrenching cry of a parent who had lost not one, but two daughters to an unfathomable darkness.
Emily, laid to rest beneath a weeping willow, her memory a bittersweet ache in the hearts of those who loved her. The tree, with its drooping branches, seemed to weep for the lost girl, its leaves whispering secrets of the past. Her memory a bittersweet ache in the hearts of those who loved her. The pain of her loss was a constant companion, a reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that lurked just beyond the light. The laughter, the adventures, the bond they shared, forever tainted by the tragedy that had unfolded in the woods. The once innocent memories now carried a weight of sorrow, a reminder of the day when everything changed. The woods, once a place of joy and exploration, now stood as a silent witness to the horrors that had transpired, its shadows hiding secrets that may never be revealed. The woods, once a place of joy and adventure, were now shunned, feared. They became known as Whispering Pines, a place where darkness lingered, where the wind carried the whispers of madness and death. Some say that on quiet nights, when the moon is full, you can still hear them, the whispers, faint murmurs carried on the wind, a chilling reminder of the tragedy that had stained the woods forever. And Emily's laughter, once so full of life, now echoed only in the memories of those who dared to remember. A haunting reminder of the day innocence was lost and the whispers claimed another soul.